awesome tunes.
In the dead of night, a shadow of unimaginable sorrow sweeps across Egypt. Hearts pound, tears flow. Even Pharaoh's grand throne feels powerless. No one can escape what stalks these halls. And by morning, an entire empire will be changed forever. But how did we reach this darkest hour? To understand the path that led here, we must return to the very beginning. Moses spent many years away from this land, but now he returns with a purpose he believes comes directly from the Creator. By his side stands Aaron, always ready to help speak and guide. They carry in their hearts one request: freedom for their people who have been forced to work under harsh conditions for far too long.
Who dares come before me with such demands? Speak or be dismissed.
Mighty Pharaoh, we come as messengers. The people of Israel have suffered under harsh labor. We ask that you let them go into the wilderness, so they may find time to worship our God.
You dare tell me to free my workers? You must be joking, Moses. Israel's labor is vital to our kingdom. Be gone, both of you, and tell your people they shall work even harder.
Have you ever faced a tough challenge that seemed impossible to solve? Imagine standing in Moses' shoes. He must convince the most powerful ruler of his time to free countless people. It would seem hopeless to anyone looking on. But sometimes, difficulties set the stage for miracles. Though Pharaoh refused, Moses and Aaron did not give up. They returned several times to plead with Pharaoh. Then, something dramatic began to happen, signs of great power that no one could ignore.
Pharaoh, you have not listened. But so you may know this request is not from us alone. Watch closely.
Moses signals Aaron, who takes Moses' staff and throws it onto the polished floor. In an instant, it transforms into a living serpent, coiling and hissing.
I see. My own magicians can do the same trick.
Two palace magicians also step forward, toss their staffs down, and each staff also appears to turn into a serpent. But then, Moses' serpent slithers over and swallows the others.
I am not impressed. Leave me.
Because Pharaoh's heart was stubborn, and he would not set the Israelites free, a series of events, 10 astonishing plagues, would come upon Egypt. They were not meant to harm everyone for no reason, but to show Pharaoh that there is a far greater authority than his own. The Nile River flows peacefully at dawn. Fishermen cast their nets into the calm waters, hoping for a fresh catch. Moses, following divine instruction, touched the water with his staff. To Pharaoh's horror, the river turned to blood. The fish died, and the water smelled terrible. Everywhere people turned, jars, bowls, and even puddles turned red and undrinkable. Pharaoh stands on a balcony overlooking the Nile, disgusted by the scene below. But his face remains set like stone.
My sorcerers can do something similar. This proves nothing. I will not let Israel go.
Then came frogs in overwhelming numbers. They crept into beds, kitchens, and every corner of Egypt. It was as if the land was covered in a green hopping carpet. Pharaoh, no longer able to ignore this nuisance, called for Moses and Aaron.
Enough, Moses. Take these creatures away and I will let your people go to worship.
Very well, Pharaoh. Once the frogs leave, I trust you will keep your word.
Moses prays, and the frogs begin to die out, the Egyptian workers are left piling them into heaps. The land smells foul for a while, but at least the annoyance ends. Yet Pharaoh's heart once again hardens.
I have changed my mind. Your people stay
Next, tiny bugs called gnats appeared in countless numbers, covering people and animals. Pharaoh's sorcerers attempted to replicate this sign, but failed, admitting there was a power greater than theirs at work.
This is serious indeed, but I will still not let them go.
Then came a massive swarm of flies, filling the air with a constant drone. Remarkably, the region where the Israelites lived remained untouched. That was a clear sign that these plagues were targeted, not random.
All right, I've had enough. If you remove these flies, your people may go a short distance to worship.
We will pray, and when the flies leave, I hope you will honor your word this time.
Moses prays again, and slowly the flies vanish, leaving behind a silent, still palace. Pharaoh takes a relieved breath, but we see a cold determination flash in his eyes.
No, the people shall stay where they are.
Have you ever seen a promise broken after hard work? It can be discouraging, but every setback can also be a chance to show patience and faith. Sometimes waiting shows just how committed we are to doing what is right. 4 plagues have shaken Egypt, yet Pharaoh remains stubborn. However, the story does not end here. Even greater wonders are about to unfold. We continue our story with the 5th plague, one that affected Egypt's livestock. Because Pharaoh's heart was still unyielding, a terrible sickness fell upon the animals. Horses, donkeys, camels, and cattle became ill, many dying despite all efforts to save them.
My lord, Egypt's wealth depends on these animals. Our people suffer.
I will not bend my will to Moses' demands. This will pass, as the others did.
Even though the Egyptian animals fell victim to the sickness, the Israelites' livestock were spared. Yet, Pharaoh refused to free them. Next came boils, painful sores that plagued the Egyptians. Their magicians could do nothing, and everyone grew desperate.
Moses, remove these sores at once.
Pharaoh, please. This pain is unnecessary. Let our people go to worship, and these troubles will end.
Very well. If you end this plague, I might consider letting them go.
Moses offers a silent prayer. Yet once Pharaoh sees some measure of relief, his resolve returns to stone.
I have changed my mind yet again. They shall not leave.
Sometimes it's easy to cling to power even when it harms us. Pharaoh's pride would not allow him to do the right thing. Have you ever felt tempted to hold on to something just to prove you're in control? True strength often lies in knowing when to let go. Then, an unprecedented storm of hail fell from the sky, mixed with lightning. Crops were destroyed. Trees splintered under the frozen barrage. Pharaoh's own palace courtyard was pummeled by hail, sending servants running for shelter.
Moses, tell your God I have seen enough. Let the thunder stop, and I swear the people can go.
I will pray, Pharaoh. But remember, empty words solve nothing. You must let the Israelites go.
Moses prays, and the storm calms. Waters recede, but much of Egypt's vegetation is in ruins. Fields flattened, fruit trees stripped bare. The air is still as everyone surveys the damage.
My lord, please keep your promise this time. Our land cannot take more destruction.
I will not release them. I am king of this land, and I decide what happens here.
Egypt had seen ruin upon ruin, yet Pharaoh's stubbornness grew. Little did he realize that the suffering would only worsen for his people. Now, more plagues were on the horizon, each one a sign, a warning, and an invitation to choose what is right. Egypt stood on the brink of a deeper crisis. Though the land suffered greatly, Pharaoh's pride stood firm. Despite repeated warnings and calls for mercy, he refused to free the Israelites. Now, the eighth plague was on its way, another severe sign that this was beyond mere chance. Locusts came in droves, devouring every plant and every leaf. What little food survived the hail was now completely destroyed. Even the palace gardens were chewed down to bare stems.
My lord Pharaoh, at this rate, there will be nothing left for our people to eat.
Pharaoh, looking deeply troubled for the first time, calls for Moses and Aaron to appear before him.
Moses, I beg you, pray to your God, remove these locusts, and I promise to let your people go.
Then let it be so, Pharaoh.
Moses prays quietly, and soon a great wind blows the locusts away into the Red Sea, clearing Egypt's sky at last. However, moments after the land begins to breathe again, Pharaoh's gaze hardens.
Number, I cannot release them. You test my patience, Moses.
Then darkness fell so heavy, it felt like a blanket over the entire country. For 3 days, no one could see or move about freely. Lanterns gave minimal light, and fear paralyzed everyone. Yet in the homes of the Israelites, there was still light.
Moses, end this. Egypt cannot live in this eternal night. Go, take your people, but leave your livestock behind.
No, Pharaoh. We need our animals to offer sacrifices in our worship. We cannot leave them.
Then none of you shall leave. Get out of my sight and never return.
Moses, with sorrow on his face, lowers his head and turns away. Outside, the darkness still lingers. Sometimes people hold on to control even when everything is collapsing around them. We can learn from Pharaoh's mistake. After 3 days, the darkness lifted, but Pharaoh remained as stubborn as ever. The stage was set for the final and most devastating plague. A silent tension fell across the land.
Our God has spoken. There will be one last plague, a tragedy that will force Pharaoh to send us away. We must be ready.
A final plague, the 10th, was about to unfold. A tragic event that would shake the very heart of Egypt. But the Creator gave the Israelites a way to be protected, leading to an important memorial still honored by many.
Listen carefully. Each family must select a perfect lamb. Take its blood and mark your doorpost with it. That mark will protect your household from the coming calamity. Then roast the lamb, eat it with bitter herbs and unleavened bread. Be dressed and ready to leave in haste.
We trust these words. We will do exactly as instructed.
This night would be known as the Passover, when the destroyer would pass over those marked by the blood. It symbolized protection and freedom from the coming judgment. At midnight, the firstborn in every Egyptian household died, including Pharaoh's own child. Anguish spread across the land like a dark shadow. Yet in the homes marked with blood, the families remained safe.
Send for Moses and Aaron, now.
Moments later, Moses and Aaron enter, their faces reflecting sorrow for the nation's pain.
Go, take your people, your flocks, your herds, everything. Leave Egypt at once.
Moses and Aaron bow their heads in sympathy, then hurry out of the palace, Outside, Israelite families gather quickly, belongings packed, children in tow, ready to depart. Some look nervous, others excited, but all are eager for freedom. Isn't it amazing how perseverance often leads to breakthrough? Even in the darkest hour, hope can shine. Remember, the toughest battles can sometimes birth the greatest freedom. After generations of living under oppression, the Israelites finally stepped out of Egypt, guided by a promise of a better future. They carried what they could, trusting in the Creator for the journey ahead. At last, the Israelites were free. They had stepped out of Egypt under the guidance of Moses and Aaron. But soon, Pharaoh's regret and anger would stir once more, leading to one of the most dramatic moments in their entire journey.
All those workers gone. Who will build our cities? Who will labor in our fields? I have made a mistake letting them go.
Your Majesty, shall we pursue them?
Oh yes, gather every chariot, every soldier. We will bring them back, or worse.
Immediately, Egyptian soldiers pour into the palace courtyard. Chariots rumble, horses neigh, and the dust stirs as the army assembles. With a shout, they head out into the desert, determined to recapture the Israelites. Before them lay a vast sea. Behind them, Pharaoh's mighty army was advancing. Their excitement quickly turned to fear.
Were there no graves in Egypt that you brought us out here to die? We are trapped.
Do not be afraid, stand firm, and you will see a powerful rescue.
In an astonishing miracle, the waters parted, revealing safe passage through the sea. Imagine the sound of rushing wind, the sight of towering water on both sides. A true moment of awe. Moments later, Pharaoh's chariots arrive at the shoreline. Pharaoh, seeing the parted sea, orders his army to follow. The camera shows soldiers driving their horses onto the exposed seabed, determined to catch the Israelites.
After them, they cannot escape me.
Keep going, don't look back.
As the last of the Israelites step onto the far shore, Moses turns and stretches his staff over the sea once more. All at once, the waters tumbled back into place, swallowing Pharaoh's army. Chariots flipped, horses whinnied in terror, and the mighty soldiers were swept away. Has life ever surprised you with an unexpected way out when you felt cornered? Sometimes, the path to freedom appears right when we need it most. On that day, the Israelites sang songs of victory and gratitude. They had witnessed the impossible become possible. Their former slave drivers were gone, and they were truly free. Freed from their oppressors at last, the Israelites pressed on into the wilderness. Though their hearts were filled with gratitude, the scorching sun and barren paths soon tested their faith. Israelites arrive at a place called Marah, low, scraggly shrubs growing near a water source. People rush eagerly toward the water, hoping for refreshment. But as they taste it, their faces twist in disgust.
It's so bitter. We cannot drink this.
What are we supposed to drink now? Our children are thirsty.
Please do not be afraid. We have seen wonders before. Let us trust we will see them again.
Moses walks up to the bitter pool, carrying a piece of wood as instructed in his heart. He tosses the wood into the water. After a brief pause, the water ripples softly and then grows still. To everyone's amazement, the water that was once too bitter to drink became refreshing and pure. A small sign, perhaps, but a powerful reminder that with faith, impossible situations can change. Isn't it remarkable how quickly we forget past miracles when faced with new troubles? Sometimes, a little bitterness is followed by a sudden sweetness. Let's remember to keep hope alive, even when things look grim. The Israelites march deeper into a landscape of rolling desert dunes. Eventually, supplies of grain and food run low. The sun beats down, and weary travelers begin to gripe once more.
Listen, everyone. We understand your worries. Our God knows our needs.
Tonight you will see his provision. In the evening he will give meat to eat. In the morning you will find bread from heaven.
That evening, quail arrived in large numbers, providing enough meat for every household. Hope flickered in their hearts again. By morning, each person had what they needed. It was a daily reminder that provision often comes one day at a time.
Gather just enough for your household, no more, no less. This is the bread our God has provided, and we will call it manna. On the sixth day, gather twice as much, so you can rest on the seventh. Trust that it will not spoil then, for you deserve a day of peace.
Days pass, and though manna appears each morning, the novelty wears off for some. Few people complained once again.
Manna for breakfast, manna for lunch, manna for dinner. I miss the variety we had in Egypt.
We had cucumbers, onions, fish. Now all we see is sand and manna.
Isn't it curious how quickly we forget our blessings? One moment, we're celebrating a miracle. The next, we're longing for what we left behind. Yet each new day can bring fresh lessons if we keep a grateful heart. And so, the Israelites continued forward, fed from above, yet still prone to grumbling. Their journey was far from over. Soon, they would face another test. This time, thirst in a place where water was nowhere to be found. Leaving the place where they first tasted manna, the Israelites traveled further into the wilderness. Despite daily bread from the heavens, the scorching sun soon took its toll. Their water supplies ran dangerously low, and frustration began to rise once again.
Our little ones are faint with thirst. Where is water for us to drink, Moses?
Why did you bring us out of Egypt, only to let us die of thirst out here?
Have courage. We have not come this far to be abandoned.
Moses ascends a rocky outcrop. From below, the people watch. Moses carefully lifts his staff, then strikes a specific rock face as instructed. Immediately, a stream of fresh water flows forth, rushing down into the desert sand. A joyful chaos ensues as men, women, and children rush to fill their containers and quench their thirst. Some laugh, others weep with relief. A sense of renewed gratitude fills the camp. Later, some Israelites gather around the flowing water, reflecting on the journey so far. Others still murmur in small groups, wondering about tomorrow's challenges.
First we were trapped at the sea, and then hungry, and now thirsty. Yet each time a door opened, perhaps we should trust more.
But what about the dangers ahead? This desert holds many tests.
We do face uncertainties, but remember how far we've come. Every time we thought we were at our end, we were given hope. Let's carry that hope forward.
It was a much-needed moment of rest in their long journey. As they lay down under the star-filled sky, they remembered how they had been guided through every crisis. Though the road ahead was still long, they had learned a valuable lesson. The same power that freed them would lead them onward. This story of plagues, miracles, and wandering hearts reveals a timeless truth. Sometimes we must leave behind familiar places, even if they were painful, to discover a greater destiny. Hardships can become stepping stones to deep trust and unity. And most importantly, when all seems lost, an unexpected solution can appear like water from a rock. Friends, no matter where life leads you, remember the lessons of this desert trek. Courage in adversity, faith in the face of uncertainty, and gratitude for each blessing that arrives when you need it most. These truths guide us through every challenge. Thank you for joining us on this journey through God's Word. We hope today's animated Bible story touched your heart and strengthened your faith. If you found it meaningful, Please like and share to spread God's message far and wide. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. God bless you and see you next time.